It was a movie about a shark terrorizing swimmers and no. I'm not ever swimming again, goddammit. Not even a bath. I'm not even having a shower just in case they have mini sharks. This is a movie that blew up bigger than an allergic warthog, redefined the summer blockbuster, and generally soiled underpants the world over. Jaws. Writer Peter Benchley had written a book about a shark snacking on some people around the fictitious seaside town of Amity, which means friendship. But in the language of the sharks, Amity translates to all-you-can-eat buffet. The novel was first published in 1974 and was an instant bestseller, but before publication had caught the imaginations of Hollywood producers Richard Zanuck and Darrell Brown, and they snapped up the film rights faster than the title character biting into a swimmer. Various directors were approached, and they did hire a guy who proceeded to talk about his film about a whale, and so he was quickly fired, in favour of somebody who wasn't as clueless as a concussed bungee jumper who had lied about their height. Steven Spielberg was in his mid-20s and had just directed his first film for Zanuck and Brown, Sugarland Express, a film that, like me in high school English, didn't do good and stuff and everything like that and shit. The producers approached Spielberg about directing Jaws before Sugarland Express was released, and Spielberg was hesitant since Jaws felt too much like his early 70s TV movie, Duel, about a killer truck. I mean, I suppose there's a similarity in concept, but it only really makes sense if the shark was driving the truck. But without the thumbs, how does he turn on the ignition?
You don't go in the water at all, do you?
Some bad hat, Harry.
Spielberg came onto the movie and set about working with various scriptwriters, including Benchley, Howard Sackler, and finally Carl Gottlieb, and the script was shaping up, well, nicely enough. Elements of the book were jettisoned in favour of making it a straight adventure film. Jaws begins with a skinny dipping chick being mistaken for chicken wings and dipping sauce by something really big. Probably a shark, unless there are really big spiders lurking in Amity. Police Chief Brody wants to close the beaches on Amity just before the 4th of July weekend, but the mayor doesn't want a minor thing like, public safety getting in the way of valuable tourism dollars.
You yell barracuda. You're racist. Huh? What? You yell shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
More deaths occur, including a young child, and when a bounty is posted by the kid's mother, all sorts of really intelligent people go a-hunting.
Yeah, they're all gonna die.
Brody, being an ex-New Yorker, isn't overly fond of water, and if you've been on the subway in summer, you can imagine the aroma.
Doesn't make much sense for a guy who hates the water to live on an island either.
It's only an island if you look at it from the water.
Shark expert Matt Hooper turns up to lend a hand and tell us all about sharks.
All this machine does is swim and eat and make little sharks, and that's all.
Eventually, the town engages local shark hunter Quint to take Brody and Hooper out on the water to hunt down and hopefully kill the shark before it strikes again.
$10,000 for me by myself. For that you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
Jaws is an utterly brilliant concoction. Spielberg was just hitting his stride as a filmmaker, and on Jaws' release in 1975, quickly became the highest grossing film of all time. But back up, the actual production was what was known as a cluster fuck. The original plan was to quickly ramp up production so that principal photography could be completed ahead of a possible actors' strike in mid-1974.
I don't want him on the ocean.
He's not on the ocean, he is in a boat. He's not gonna go in the water. I don't think he'll ever go in the water again after what happened yesterday. Michael! Did you hear your father? Out of the water now!
A planned 55-day filming schedule with a $3.5 million budget was at best wildly optimistic and at worst ridiculous, like helium-filled Oreos.
Well, maybe not that ridiculous.
Still better than fruit punch Oreos. I don't know, I think I could get used to this.
I don't think that's funny at all.
By the end of principal photography, the budget and shooting schedule had ballooned, with each being something like 3 times the original estimates.
I value my neck a lot more than $3,000, Chief.
Spielberg and co. set up shop on Martha's Vineyard off Cape Cod, though history does not record whether Martha had ever shared a glass of wine with a Cape-wearing cod. The main reason for shooting there was not the postcard perfect town, but because they could head to the sea and still have a relatively shallow sandy bottom. Oh, come on now. The effects people had designed a series of mechanical sharks that were attached to an underwater crane that rested on the sand. In theory, the mechanical sharks could go up and he could go down, pivot and eat on command. There was a shark that was designed to travel left to right, another that went right to left. Sharks were all singing and all dancing.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Except they didn't really work, tended to break, sink, and otherwise behaved stroppier than an Instagram influencer who's jumped out of a plane in a bikini and then discovered they've left the lens cap on. Real sharks were filmed by shark legends Ron and Valerie Taylor in Australia, with a real shark attacking a scaled-down shark cage with a little person doubling for Hooper. And of course their boat was called Skippy. The shark not working as intended did actually work in favour of the production, because even when it was on point, it never really looked real. It's mostly hinted at before we see it in all its glory towards the very end of the film. There are one or two shots where the shark looks faker than a tan on a librarian. The shark's mechanical woes had one serendipitous effect. It forced Spielberg and company to pare back shots of the manky mechanical monster to a bare minimum and use suggestion and music to hint at the monster's presence. Like how people at crowded conventions use a lack of hygiene to alert others to their presence.
Beach is closed. No swimming. By order of the Amity PD. Let Polly do the printing.
What's the matter with my thing?
Let Polly do the printing.
To get around a failing mechanical shark with a worse work ethic than a trust fund kid who wants to be a DJ, the production substituted barrels apparently attached to the shark, simulating the shark's movements.
Can't stay down with 3 barrels on it. Not with 3 barrels he can.
The barrels clearly had a better union than the eponymous fish, who worked for scale. Spielberg himself would dunk on the fake shark, disowning it, but has since realised the shark has made him. And what did Bruce get for his troubles?
Smile, you son of a...
Spielberg had had quite a time trying to cast his leads. People just weren't interested. Roy Scheider gives a career-defining performance as Chief Brody, a guy who wanted a quieter career after being a New York cop. And obviously having a killer shark on the loose wasn't quite the sea change he had in mind. Like when you take up golf for fun and exercise, and then you discover the downside, which is needing to deal with people who really, really like golf.
Slow ahead. I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this shit.
Richard Dreyfuss saw the script and initially didn't want to do it, as he could see what a shitstorm the production would be, but eventually took the role of Hooper. He's a rich kid spending his trust fund researching sharks, which is what you had to do before Shark Week on Discovery Channel turned into Shark Every Goddamn Week.
You rich? Yeah. Yeah, how much? Well, personally or the whole family?
He's the guy with the answers that nobody but Brody wants to listen to.
To take this abuse much longer.
And then there's Quint. Robert Shaw brought with him a competitive intensity to the project.
At home, we got a taxidermy man. He gonna have a heart attack when he see what I brought him.
It was hard work to act with him in the same scene, but he was worth it. Quint is an old salty dog who hunts shark for fun and revenge. Truth be told, he was an obnoxious asshole for most of the film. Though, have you ever met an asshole who wasn't obnoxious?
Well, it proves one thing, Mr. Hooper. Proves that you wealthy college boys don't have the education enough to admit when you're wrong.
The three men bond over drinks and comparing injuries, which lets them work as a team by the end of the film. Lorraine Gary was Ellen Brody, watching the proceedings with a mixture of curiosity and horror at what her husband was dealing with.
What am I going to tell the kids?
Tell them I'm going fishing.
Also of note is Murray Hamilton as the mayor, an elected official downplaying a deadly public safety crisis by hoping the deaths were just caused by overzealous haddock. Spielberg's films were often well cast, and Jaws is a perfect example of this. There's authentic local colour by putting residents of Martha's Vineyard in small roles, and minor roles for crew members here and there. And then there was this. Jaws' simple theme tune made up for any shortcomings in the prop shark, becoming the most famous monster theme of all time. John Williams, who before Jaws was best known for his TV scores for Irwin Allen or his disaster movie scores for Irwin Allen. You could play the theme tune fast, you could play it slow, you could play it backwards, but it was the quickest way to turn any large body of water brown.
Jaws. See it before you go swimming.
Jaws is a masterclass of making a film horrific without being too graphic, scary without assaulting you with blood and gore for 2 hours. It hints at what's happening without having to show you a mechanical shark that worked as intended about 5% of the time, like a Windows update. It's the sort of film where the pop culture impact is hard to overstate. Parodies of Jaws are legion. Spielberg himself would reference it in his terrible comedy 1941. Plus it would show up in other films.
Shark still looks fake.
Even before Jaws, there had been a strand of horror films based on nature getting revenge on man. But after Jaws, they all seem water-based, with imitators such as Piranha, Killerfish, SpongeBob SquarePants, and Orca. Huh? Jaws spawned a few sequels, all made without Spielberg's direct involvement. The first one, Jaws 2 in 1978, at least has the distinction of having a great tagline. Jaws 3D, or Jaws 3, was set in a theme park, and both it and the second film were relatively profitable. Jaws the Revenge has Michael Caine, who was at the height of his say his name, sign a check and he will show up for the shoot phase of his career. Jaws the Revenge is just considered by most to be a terrible, terrible movie.
But as you see, it's a beautiful day, the beaches are open, and the people are having a wonderful time.
Jaws was and is a magnificent movie filled with thrills and tension, an excellent cast, a brilliant score, and of course amazing direction. It's iconic and quotable for all the right reasons.
I don't think that's funny at all.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below or check out some of our other videos.